2020 is shaping up to be a busy year when it comes to politics, your money, and your health. And this morning, we're going to walk you through all there is to know. Of course, there will be a lot of fallout over the still unfolding impeachment case. Plus, it's officially election year. The first votes in the Democratic race for the White House now just 1 month away. And here to help us break it down is Chuck Todd. Chuck, good morning. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. I didn't think 2020 would ever get here.
I know, but as a political nerd, you're always waiting for those big presidential election years.
Yes.
Yeah, we'll get to the election in a minute, but let's talk about impeachment. Obviously, this is something still unfolding. How do you see this playing out? How could it play out?
Well, there's a couple of ways it could play out. I mean, you could have it all depends on how complete the Senate trial feels or is. I mean, there's just still a lot of unknown about that. If it plays out in a large way, well, it's possible these could become impeachment, could become sort of the issue, at least in House and Senate races. Like, there's a chance it becomes that, where everything is some form of a Trump proxy. You have the president himself on the ballot, and then how did you handle the Trump era on the ballot, if you will? Then again, it could end up being a referendum on Democrats. Did you use your majority only to target the president? You know, do they successfully do that? Look, let me just warn folks, the first 100 days of this year, I mean, I'd like to get to November of 2020 as fast as everybody else would, but the first 100 days of this year, we're supposed to get through a Senate trial. 70% of the Democratic primary is going to be decided in the next 100 days. There is a lot of stress we're putting on our political system in just the first 100 days of this new calendar year.
Yeah, and it has already been under a tremendous amount of stress. You mentioned the Democratic votes, as they're going to finally start voting. We had, you know, a whole election process that the campaign seems to be going on forever with all of the debates. It's still a pretty open field on the Democratic side.
It is. It reminds me, for our professional lifetime, 2004, where you had that race. John Kerry started as an early frontrunner, faded. Howard Dean would look like the candidate of the moment around the new year. He ends up crashing and burning. And that's how open this field is, with Warren and Buttigieg feeling like they have the most upside and downside. They're the most volatile of the two to follow this month, versus Bernie Sanders and Joe Biden, who seem to have a certain set of supporters that don't budge. And I think at some point, all of this is going to collide in the month of February.
Do they feel those early states, Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina, Nevada, do those still seem like as important in our politics as they used to be, where it was like live or die if you don't get through those states?
Well, let's look at it. It depends on who the candidate is. Joe Biden, there's a way for him to live and die without Iowa or New Hampshire. Ditto, maybe if the Michael Bloomberg strategy of skipping it all and just doing a national campaign, we're going to find out if that strategy is available. It's never been done before. But where's Pete Buttigieg without Iowa? Frankly, where's Elizabeth Warren without Iowa and New Hampshire? So it does matter for certain candidates more so than most. And I'm going to throw one wild card out there. I do think we shouldn't overlook Amy Klobuchar. If there is one candidate left in this large field that hasn't been in the top tier that could, it's Klobuchar.
Let's talk about the convention. Could this be, for in rare cases, an actually interesting convention that could decide something?
And sometimes we in the press are guilty of maybe hyping the idea of a contested convention, because
otherwise, it's just a bunch
I talked
of
about our lifetime.
Yes.
We haven't had this in our lifetime.
No.
We've not been able to.
It's always just a series of speeches, but it's not about who's the nominee.
I will say this. The way the rules are set up, the way the money is distributed in this campaign, the type of support groups that the top four candidates have, I don't know how this doesn't end in a contested convention. It is, unless the party decides it needs to rally around a nominee quick, and I could argue that actually against this president and the way he eats people alive at times, are you better waiting to the very last minute to decide your nominee, leaving him an unsteady target for a while? There's an argument to be made for that.
Well, let's talk about the president and his reelection strategy. We always see previews of it in the sense that he's talking up the economy. He can point to accomplishments such as tax reform. Right. How do you expect him? But obviously under the cloud of impeachment.
Right. It's pretty simple campaign strategy. Gin up the base and try to scare independents from the Democratic nominee, saying, hey, whether, let's say they end up with a liberal Democratic nominee like Elizabeth Warren, that will be the focus. Let's say they end up with a less liberal nominee like a Buttigieg or a Biden, then it will be, look at those other progressive Democrats. They're dragging the Democratic Party to socialism or something like that. We know what the strategy is. It doesn't matter who the nominee is. It is a strategy that depends on a middle of the electorate overlooking the president's personal character and somehow getting him to re-election. I think it's a very uphill battle for him.
When you think 2020, you think, of course, presidential campaigns.
Yes.
We think of the Olympics, Chuck.
Oh, I think of it. I will say this, and this is going to, I'm like, call me an NBC shill. But I'm going to say the following, and I believe this about America today. We are so unwanting to be united. We so are tired of fighting. You feel it out there. I think this year's Olympics is going to feel like this cleanse. In the same way, we want to cleanse ourselves. I think we are going to throw ourselves in the Olympics in a way that we haven't before because of how horrible and contentious our politics have been. I think we want to be united. So I know I'm personally looking forward to it. It's nice to just cheer America.
Yeah.
All be on the same team. I think as a country, we're really going to need it.
Yeah.
So please, Tokyo, deliver.
Exactly. All right. Chuck Todd, thank you. Happy New Year. Appreciate it.